Welcome back to another episode of How I Franchise This. Today we are joined by Barry Meisel. He's got a very interesting story. He's a big multi-unit franchisee. We're going to jump into it here in a second, but let's start by a quick intro from Barry. And how did you first get into entrepreneurship and business ownership?
Sure. Alex, thanks for having me on. I was actually born and raised in the Philippines. My parents are missionaries there, so went to an international school and having a diverse experience and seeing different walks of life. We had, I think, 30 different countries represented there. Taught me a lot about perspective and how I view the world today and kind of how I look at opportunities. So had a lot of independence living overseas, public transportation through big city in Manila, and learned a lot.
Do you speak like 3 different languages?
A little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Tagalog, but not fluent in either. So that was a neat experience. And then from there, dropped off at college, by my mom with a few days worth of groceries and a kiss on the cheek, and she went back to the Philippines. So from there, had a lot of, again, independence.
Did you know anyone here when you came?
Did just a few friends who are going to be at college. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
Had a lot of families welcome me in for Thanksgivings and Christmases and summer jobs and things. So was always curious, but that gave me a level of independence and kind of a view on things that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Do you have aunts, uncles, cousins here that you could go meet up with if you were feeling, I guess, homesick? Or
that's a good question. It was interesting. Having lived overseas, we'd come back about every 4 years.
Okay.
And when we were back, it was called furlough, and we'd spend time at local churches or with families. So I didn't see cousins and grandparents often. So I knew of them, and we'd have a family reunion every few years, but that's it. So it was really connecting with building new relationships and connecting with some folks from the international school that I went to.
So this kind of unique upbringing, childhood probably set a foundation for you kind of freely thinking, being more independent, comfortable, with yourself, and going out to explore things, maybe take risks that others might not have been as comfortable taking.
For sure.
How did you first get exposure to the business world, the world of business? You grew up in this kind of missionary community. Mm-hmm. How did that translate, or how did you eventually find your way over to entrepreneurship, business, etc.?
Yeah, good question. In college, I studied. So I had a double major in business and communications. And my first job out of college was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So offering a Dodge Neon to an Audi customer is not an easy sell. So having that experience to, customer service, first time, leading a P&L and understanding just all different elements of business and a scrappiness to that job really helped lay a foundation for me.
Well, so you go to college. What did you do after college? I mean, did you jump right into entrepreneurship, or did you go work for the man for a little bit? What was...
Definitely worked for the man for a while. So I from Enterprise, actually got into financial services. So I had a run of about 8 years in financial services with Fortune 50 companies. And you see a lot. You see a lot in terms of how to do things well. And there's a lot of unique and challenging roles and experiences I had. But also saw, this is not what I want to do long term. And you quickly see how not to lead people, how not to handle difficult situations. And that shaped kind of how I said, hey, I want to have that opportunity at some point. But the biggest driver was really the summer. I lived with a friend for 2 summers in Wisconsin, and his dad had 2 businesses. So
what were they?
So he had an environmental company.
Okay.
So he would get contaminated land from the city, like an old bus depot. And then he would develop self-storage facilities.
Okay.
So he got the land for pennies on the dollar, and they would develop these facilities that were gated, secure, climate controlled, really nice, and learned a ton about it. So I was a guy, my friend would be like, man, let's go shoot hoops. I'd be like, dude, I want to ask your dad a few more questions. So I was always very curious, and I enjoyed talking to the adults after dinner and catching up on their life. And so learned a lot from him and saw the freedom and the joy he had in leading his companies, and I knew that's what I want to do.
So would you say that was a very pivotal kind of point in your life, being exposed to that, getting to ask those questions, seeing someone else do it?
For sure. And believing I can bet on myself. I think I can do that. Not in environmental. I mean, he had a lot of certifications and deep studies to do that, but absolutely in terms of, hey, bringing a team together, solving, XYZ challenges was something that opened my eyes even more.
It's kind of like that, hey, if he can do it, if someone else can do this, why can't I, figure it out?
Right.
What do you think led you to have that curiosity to begin with? I mean, do you tie it back to anything, or?
I think back to coming back as an 18-year-old and having to navigate life from like filling out your FAFSA college form to figuring out like, where am I going to live? How am I going to earn some money in the summers? I mean, my parents were able to help a little bit, but it was really on me to, I mean, I was going to the admissions office, negotiating like my, what do you call it? Like,
Room and board,
yeah,
tuition.
thank you. Like scholarships and things, right? So a crazy story, I was playing basketball in an open gym one night, went to a small college, played NAIA level basketball and ran track, but we were playing an open gym one night, and after we were done, one of the coaches says like, hey, come here real quick. Come to find out he's a track coach. He said, you're pretty athletic. I said, man, thanks. And he said, why don't you meet me at the parking lot tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we might have some money available. So ended up, he had his
He didn't like open the trunk of a car though and have a duffel bag.
No, this was none of that happened. Of course not. Of course not. But it was, those type of experiences, it was just kind of bizarre. I mean, I think God opened some amazing doors, but it was neat to do that. And he timed me in the parking lot. He said, do it again. He had to do some kind of standing, broad jump and different things. And he's like, I've got money available. So I ended up running track. I'd run in middle school. That's it. And just was athletic and quick. And that translated into being in the world of track and field and playing small college basketball. But it was great.
Where'd you go to school again?
Grace College.
Grace College.
Where's Indiana? Winona Lake, Indiana. So it's known to the orthopedic capital of the world.
Okay.
So if you need a knee or hip at some point, it was
I had an
probably
Achilles
there.
a year and a half ago. It was not fun.
That's tough.
All right, so you're seeing your buddy's dad run the storage facilities, the environmental business. You're like, hey, I could do this. So that flipped a switch for you. Were you working in financial services at the time, or was that in college?
In college. So it was the 2 summers in between college. So what was cool, he actually brought me back the second summer for an internship. Okay. So I had an opportunity to do business development and get kind of behind the scenes on operations of the business. Where the summer before is whatever needed to get done, from clearing land to, helping out, clearing out facilities of people that, didn't pay their bills. And
when you went after college, you went and worked corporate for a little bit, financial services. What kind of financial services? Because I think if I remember correctly, it was with small business to a degree and franchising to an element. And is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I was in the investing group for a while. So high net worth investments, met some fascinating people, and then translated into the small business group for many years. And through that was really my first exposure into franchising. That and then an opportunity at Great Clips. So I ended up moving us when we lived in Chicago, relocated to Denver, Colorado for an opportunity. And there helped lead a portfolio of 30 locations. So that was fascinating hearing that guy's story. He got involved in the mid-'80s. His dad was in shopping center development and gave him a little bit of seed capital, and he ended up opening a few Great Clips, and then through acquisitions and new locations scaled that business quickly. So I was like, man, I like the space a lot, and how quickly he grew, like it was an impressive story.
Back it up. So you said you worked with some high net worth individuals. I, at one point in college, was thinking about going to like private banking, wealth management, and I did a little bit of work in that area. And I think that was also, for me personally, like hearing how some of these families or these individuals made money, I started to identify themes of, all right, they're entrepreneurs or they're in sales. Sure. Did any of that have an impact on you as hey, I see this pattern of these individuals I'm working with or helping support. Again, could I go and do that someday? Was there any of that, or did you learn, I guess, what was the biggest learning from that stage in your career?
I think hearing people's stories for sure was incredible. I mean, a lot of the folks we worked with were people you'd read, in Forbes, right? I mean, very high net worth individuals that built massive businesses. So their stories were always very interesting. But it was more in the summer seeing my friend's dad and seeing kind of the scrappiness of that, building a small business that created opportunity for other people and having more of kind of the reins of culture and how you drive that was much more compelling to me than just being in a massive company.
Yeah. When you got the opportunity to work on the portfolio of 30 Great Clips, what capacity was it in? Were you helping run the 30, or were you at the bank still and you were providing financial support to the group that ran those 30, or what was the like day to day on that?
Yeah. So I was brought in as a CFO and became a partner in the business. So helping really anything the business needed, but we looked at some acquisitions, we opened some new locations, help with operations, and we wanted to grow kind of the district manager team. So we had locations in St. Louis, kind of in Missouri, and then in Colorado. So lived in Denver area, but we managed kind of the whole portfolio, and grew it to 36 locations, learned a lot, and then realized, seeing the owner and his lifestyle and him saying, "Hey, how are things going?" Checking in, saying, "Hey, I want to be on the other side of that."
How did you, so for some people listening, like they might be in a corporate job right now. They might hear, like resonate with the part of your story of, I'm working for these Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies. I'm, doing financial services. How did you go from that to getting hooked up with this group, being the CFO of, 30 unit franchise system? Like, how did you go from corporate to that?
Sure. It was through relationship, through a lady who ran a large RIA, a registered investment advisor, financial firm. And she called me on the way. I was living in Chicago. It was snowing. And I'm driving home, kind of sliding across the road and trying to stay focused. And she's like, "Hey, how are things going?" I said, "Good." She's like, I've got a friend. He's an attorney. His best friend runs these franchises. And they're looking for someone to help lead the business. He wants to step out of the day-to-day. Can I connect you? I said, "Sure, I'll have a conversation." Not knowing what it would lead to. And then fast forward the next week, I flew down to Ladue, Missouri, and he picked me up, and I had a tie on, a long sleeve shirt, and he said, "Lose the tie." I said, "Okay." So we traveled around and ended up staying another day, and he put me through this whole ringer of like psychology tests and an interview process, and it was pretty intense for a small business. I mean, it's pretty. Met at his country club with like his attorney and CPA, and it was kind of a grilling, but it was a really good experience. And coming out of that, it's like, "Hey, here's the opportunity. I want to step out. Are you interested?"
So the lesson there is take the call, take the meeting,
Absolutely.
go explore. What have you got to lose, kind of thing. You never know who you're going to meet.
Take the risk and have a lot of conversations. Be curious. I think that's really important.
And lose the tie.
Yeah.
All right, so you go through this drilling, this battering of psychological tests. You get the offer, right? He wants you to come work with him.
Right.
So you move your family at that point from Chicago to Denver. Is that right?
We did. My wife was 8 months pregnant, and we had a dog that we had rescued a year into our marriage. So we had one car shipped ahead. I hadn't done this before, so you're trying to negotiate the compensation package and figure it out. We did one visit out to Denver, which was an easy sell. It was beautiful. We loved it. We're like, "Hey, we could see ourselves here." And we drive the long drive kind of across the plains out to Colorado. Our dog never sat down. He just stood up the whole time panting. That was bizarre. Through the night with snow. I mean, it's just kind of a surreal experience. And then we get there and set up home. Had our daughter soon after. So yeah, I mean, have an awesome wife, have 2 amazing kids I'm really proud of. So, but that started in Denver, and then lived there for a few years. And when she was pregnant with our second child, realized, man, we don't have any family. It'd be nice to have some family around. Yeah. So that relocated us to Charlotte.
But how long were you in Denver?
We were there for almost 3 years.
And so that was your like deep exposure into franchising, right?
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, tangentially, was around it, maybe helping with financing and from that perspective, but now being in it and seeing how they're run, operated, seeing the lifestyle of the owner, that's when the next series of light bulbs starts to go off for you, right? Kind of like your college buddy's dad.
Absolutely.
Seeing him, you now see this other person. Yeah. It's reinforcing that. So had you constantly been having this like undertone or under theme of like, one of these days I'm going to own a business, and one of these days I'm going to own a business? Was it always in the back of your mind, or was it just like spurts would show up and you'd see, the college buddy's dad or the guy that you worked with in Denver, or was it always there?
It was more moments that I realized, man, I want to do that. And then you get into a big company, you move up, you have different opportunities. There's some challenging, interesting work, but it didn't
scratch the itch.
It didn't scratch the itch, exactly. And after the Great Clips opportunity, when we moved to Charlotte, I got to know a lot of local operators, local franchisees, and in my mind, I had 15 locations for some reason. And so after that, and part of the process, I wrote down a plan. I said, there's a kind of a 3-pronged plan: research, relationships, reality. Like, those are the processes I need to go through, and I need to find my way to 15, whether it's new locations, acquiring. So that led me on the journey to where I am now.
So you decided to move closer to family, come back to Charlotte. Did you have a plan for work at that point, or was it, hey, I'm going to work remote, and they were fine with it? Or what was that Again, I like to get into the details just because some people listening will be like, okay, how do I practically go and
Sure.
do this? Because it's terrifying. I'm moving my
Sure.
young children and young family across from Denver to this other place now that we've never lived. We've got a good job going over here. Did
Yep.
you feel comfortable just leaving it? Did you work remote? What was that like tactical
Sure.
progression to Charlotte?
So that process, I couldn't keep that job and move to Charlotte. So ended up back in financial services and relocated with Bank of America. Most people know, the bank here in town, and through that experience, actually ended up in the franchise lending group.
Okay.
And we develop relationships with franchise brands, helping them with financing solutions. So I met with a lot of big brands you recognize: Huntington Bank, Huntington Learning Center, Goddard, Anytime Fitness, Massage Envy, brands like that, and
Yep.
meeting with their leadership team and trying to become one of their premier providers for financing. So through that whole process, though, any free time, I'm thinking about this. I'm wanting to figure out, how do I get into franchising? So I got to know a lot of local operators, tried to buy them out. A lot of them just weren't selling. And what I'm finding is a lot of people that are doing really well are not want to sell. And those that are struggling are happy to, take a number,
Yep. Do you believe that there are diamonds in the rough out there? If there's people that the businesses maybe has potential to do well, but they were a bad operator or some other factor, or there is a good business out there and it's just that person's time is up and they don't want to deal with it anymore? Like, are those deals out there, or do you think they're few and far between?
They're out there. I definitely believe that. And I think it's all about people. So I think as you have a certain culture, and I've had a lot of experiences, and some thoughts I'd written down. It's just, when you kind of shape the culture, when you love and serve your team well, and you take care of your team, you take care of your guests, like, profits follow. So I think a lot of operators, owners, one of the questions here was like, what do you wish you knew? Is that it's not about me. And as soon as I realized that, and you look and see, man, you can transform a business. And so to your point, the businesses that are struggling, there are diamonds in the rough. You have some people, maybe you got to make some changes on the people side, but there's a ton of opportunity to get into existing franchise businesses or small businesses and turn things around and improve culture and turn it in the right direction.
Yeah, I think when we look at some of the opportunities out there, there are a lot of people that I think get into franchising thinking, oh, this is going to be, and I'm exaggerating, but mailbox money.
Sure.
I buy the license, I get it open, and that's
Right.
it. They tell me how to do everything. And I think there are a number of those businesses where the person gets into it and they realize, this isn't for me. I'm not willing to do this 60, 70 hours a week. The stress is killing me. And they kind of like put it on autopilot, even though it's not ready for autopilot. And I think those are the ones where there's opportunity for someone who is ready to come roll up their sleeves, really dig in, be in the business, really figure it out from the ground up.
Sure.
And then hire a GM and a team and to put into place. I think there are a number of those opportunities, but again, you got to look for the right one and find the people situation where you can refresh and update the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you get out what you put into it. I think that is true. Something I share with my kids: the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. So you've got to work at it. You've got to figure that out. There's so much opportunity in franchising. I think there's a fit for nearly everyone. But a lot of people do, like you said, they look at it like a side hustle. I mean, I'd work with people and they're like, yeah, man, it's a few hours a week. It's like, no, it's not. If you're really going to do it right, do it well, and take care of your team and want to grow it and be, really successful financially, then you've got to get after it.
The thing I've started to realize having conversations like this is, and we'll get into, your story, your franchise specific part of your journey, but I'll meet these individuals that have 5, 10 plus locations now. And some of them are like, yeah, I can't remember the last time I stepped foot in the actual four walls. And I'm like, okay, but that didn't just happen overnight, right? And I think like any career path, there's so much work front loaded in the beginning. And this is true for corporate or, starting your own business from scratch or doing a franchise. What I've realized is I think franchising really is one of the best pathways to wealth and the ability to have a, cash flowing asset that doesn't require 80 hours a week up front for sure.
Sure.
But if you get to that point where you've got the systems, you've got the people, you've got the team that are there really running the business day to day, you can start to have this more flexible lifestyle and travel more with family. And It's something I wish I would have been exposed to earlier in my career. It's just like, hey, this, if you're going to work hard, there's a million things you could do.
Sure.
But this is actually one of the, I'd say, most viable paths to that kind of lifestyle, because there is a playbook, there is a peer group, there's a parent that's innovating on systems and training and marketing.
For sure.
There's all these advantages, but there's no shortcut to your point about you have to put the work in early. Unless you won the lottery or you inherited 40 locations and the team's already in place and all this other stuff. But for the rest of everyone else, you got to put the work in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about, you're back at Bank of America. You're doing SBA. Is it SBA lending and franchise financing?
Yeah, like just a variety of franchise financing solutions. SBA was one of those. Yep.
So you're doing franchise financing. Was this intentional to be in that group so that you could see, have exposure to franchising, or was it, hey, I had that experience in Denver and we're moving and I need to get a job?
It was more getting to know folks in the small business group. I like that, being closer to the customer, right, and kind of the client, and the opportunity just in building relationships. They were trying to build out this new group, kind of a franchise solutions group that didn't exist. They had a huge group focused on a restaurant. So think of all the the Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, and ironically, a lot of people think of franchise. They think of that. And then seeing that they were trying to build that up, I said, hey, I'd love to be a part of that. And then it morphed into, getting a team of relationship managers around these brands, going out to all the conferences, the multi-unit, the franchise finance conference, and really immersing myself into the industry. And then the whole time I'm taking notes, listening, thinking through what brands would I want to be involved in. If the hair salon, the hair care space doesn't work out, I was still in my mindset on Great Clips, but being at the bank and seeing a lot of different brands was really eye-opening. I knew a little bit, but not nearly as much as I learned when you see, man, there's so many different brands for like any flavor, any type of individual.
Yeah. So you're getting that exposure. You're still kind of dead set on Great Clips, though. How did you go from B of A, working in this group, to starting to get in as an operator, as an owner in a franchise concept?
Sure. There was a season in between there. So, I mean, the majority of my work experience has been leading and growing small businesses. So my departure from B of A was an opportunity to lead a loyalty and incentives company. So a small business kind of in the marketing channel, and learned a ton. A few weeks in, the partners, we had a lunch, and they said, hey, this is the last $150,000 we're funding. Like, basically, good luck, and hopefully it works out, and we believe in you, and you got this. And so quickly realized, man, what are we made of? And rallying the team and getting the right team and figuring out. So turning a business around is really difficult versus taking a business, I believe, in like getting it to a point. So that was a great experience. Learned a lot. Got that business, ran it successfully for a decade.
Cool.
And then from there, that's when I officially made the jump back into franchising. About 3 years ago, bought a portfolio of 8 locations in Chicago. So that was the exit from leading that business into fully into franchising.
And was that loyalty? Was that Franchisio? Was that?
It was not.
Okay,
No.
so that was okay. What was the loyalty?
So it was a company called Energy to Engage. So we focus on helping mostly manufacturers and distributors with spiff programs, incentives, loyalty programs. So we had a platform where when they redeem rewards that they earned, we managed the fulfillment of that. We ran marketing programs. We'd spin up websites. So a lot in the marketing space. But most companies have some type of rebate or incentive that they run in those arenas. So learned a lot, met with a lot of interesting clients all over the country, from trucking to coffee companies to just different distributors in the home building space.
Was that more of like a startup, would you consider?
It was, yeah. And I like it as a restart. I mean, we rebranded in the first few months I was there, and we're really trying to relaunch the business back in. We had a few clients, but it was going out and figuring out, hey, how do we do business development? How do we get out, and what, not everybody's a client, but like, who do we really focus on? And there's a saying, there's riches in the niches, and we tried to figure out what that was and really hone in on that.
So all right, so you have that experience, and then it comes back to like, all right, I'm finally here. This thing I've been thinking about on and off since college. How did the opportunity present itself? Did you start looking pretty aggressively, or did it kind of it popped up and you're like, I have to do this? Walk everyone through how you went about acquiring, financing it, making the decision. I mean, all that whole process.
Sure. Yeah, I actually built a relationship with a guy here in Charlotte, and he had heard about a portfolio of 8 locations in Chicago. So we ended up connecting over lunch. And
How did that happen? Even that, how did you meet?
Connected through, actually, he was introduced to me from a friend, kind of a mentor we both respect. And he had mentioned him, hey, I'm looking at these salons. And he's like, you need to talk to Barry. Like he has a background in franchising, and he was part of a scale portfolio. Like he can help you navigate that. And then at lunch, we realized, man, like this is something I've been wanting to do. He was wanting to get out of a corporate environment, and it worked out, where we both saw it. We flew to Chicago, kind of covertly visited the stores, got haircuts, drove around the markets. And then from there, just kind of fast tracked the deal with the seller.
And so he, the guy that you met almost through serendipity in Charlotte, was looking at the deal in Chicago.
Was looking at those 8 stores, yeah. So it's really opportunistic. I mean, I was wanting to buy here in Charlotte. I mean, I was wanting to buy, and the largest operators were not selling because they were things were going really well. One of them had a son who was going to get in the business, and another one had a son that they weren't on good terms, and he wasn't going to get in the business. So he's like, I'll call you when I'm ready. But it was years and years and years of kind of, having conversations, waiting, and saying, man, this was just the right opportunity at the right time.
That is wild. And so it reminded me, it's Great Clips, or is it Supercuts?
It's Supercuts.
Okay.
So the first portfolio was 8 Supercuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you in Denver had worked at Great Clips, though.
Exactly right. So a key competitor, I mean, Supercuts, I mean, we're full service salon in the value space. So I tell our team we want to be the premium player in the value space. Like we don't need to dilute what we do. So we compete against a lot of the franchise brands you think of, and then a lot of the independents. I mean, 80+% of the competition is independent salons.
Yep.
You've got gray hair, you could run a salon, right? I mean, it's anybody, and then a lot of booth kind of rental setups, like salon suites and
Sola,
exactly right. All those, and those are for all franchise brands too.
What a crazy coincidental thing!
It's wild.
You were at Great Clips, you're here, you're looking for franchises, you meet this person, and I don't want people listening thinking like, oh, okay, there's just luck and whatever. I mean, there is luck involved for sure, but I wanted to call out that it's clear throughout Barry's journey you've been surrounding yourself in environments with people that have a higher propensity to generate this luck, of this mentor that said, hey, Barry, you should meet so-and-so because you've been doing X, and you've been doing X for this decade of time.
Sure.
So you have this reputation now that people think of you when a franchise opportunity pops up, or a salon specific thing in this instance. And so you're, I don't know, I think manufacturing some of those things to happen by what you're doing. Again, I want people listening to kind of think about that, like where in your life can you have mentors, establish this personal brand where your name, you get thought of when these opportunities arise. So you're getting the introduction and you're getting the at bat to
for sure
go explore it and look at it.
Yeah, I've heard you say stay around the hoop. I totally agree. I think it's that, and it's not giving up on kind of that pursuit, and it is challenging. Sometimes people can find a deal pretty quickly. I mean, Franzi is such a great platform that you guys are building, so I want to put a plug for that to people to go to get on the website, fill out a profile, just go through the process, because there's so many different brands, there's so many different industries and opportunities. And so take that step. I think a lot of people stay on the sidelines saying, oh, I'd love to do that, but they don't take the action. Get in the game. Do it.
All right, so this opportunity comes up. You guys look at it. You go get haircuts. You're like, okay, wow, we've been nurturing this relationship for a couple of years. The opportunity finally comes. What kind of things did you guys do tactically to underwrite the deal and say, hey, this is a good opportunity versus these are busted up stores. We don't know if we can do a good job with them. How did you evaluate it? I mean, tactically, again, for people listening, thinking about buying an existing business, what are some of the tips and tricks and things that you guys did that you'd make sure you would do every time you were to buy a business?
I'd encourage people to look at non-traditional routes. So in each of the acquisitions we've done, it was a combination of seller financing, and then one of the deals we did with a private loan. A good friend of mine, a high net worth guy, we were able to move more quickly, allowed us to have more flexibility on term, get the deal done faster. So doing the seller financing, having a conversation with the seller, understanding where they're at in life, what their needs are. And for us, it was like, hey, you can reduce your taxable, kind of your tax liability at close, but also, we want you still thinking about the business and caring about it because you're still in the community, while they don't have any obligation to participate and operate it. That's been really cool. In fact, one of the deals that closed, the seller, she texted us every month for the first year saying thank you.
Wow.
Totally unexpected. I mean, really cool. We had a neat closing dinner with her and her husband, and built just a neat bond. And it was her life. I mean, her whole life for 30 plus years. And so there's like an emotional and kind of a sweetness to acquiring an existing business. I think if you feel the gravity of that, you take it more seriously, and you want to do right by the team, by the seller. But in terms of the structure, yeah, we looked at SBA, we looked at a lot of different routes, and those are all great options. There's Rob's, there's a lot of different paths, but for us, it was cash from us plus seller financing. They got the deal done.
And how does seller financing work? And I know it can vary tremendously,
Sure.
but and you don't have to share the details of your deal, but is it, hey, they'll finance half of it over 5 years and it's at an interest rate and you guys pay from profits from the business? Or how does seller financing tactically work?
Sure. Yeah, very similar to that. So it's finding out with them like what they're looking for at close, like how much cash they're looking for at close. A lot of the sellers didn't want to extend the term out too far. So, we had a 5-year term on a few of the deals. We had a 3-year term on another deal that's shorter, that's a little more compressed. They didn't want as much at close, but they wanted more of kind of annuity payment. So, yeah, I mean, having the conversation, asking, a lot of people are willing to entertain it.
Okay.
So a lot of the sellers might not be financially strapped and they need the money now. So they might be willing to be flexible. And then if you have some cash flow cushion, that's huge. And that allowed us also to, make sure we had a rainy day fund in place and ample capital as we looked at the portfolio. Hey, we know we're going to need to do a lot of remodeling and updating these stores. They weren't in great shape. And so that was part of the equation too, was through the negotiation, was saying, hey, like we're going to have to put significant capital in post close. So each deal is very unique, and it's kind of a sacred space you go through with the seller, and you go through that process at a dinner or coffee, and you build a neat bond with them. One of the closings, we went to the back of one of the salons, met with the 2 area managers and the seller. As we walked in, they were all crying. Like you could tell they had just had a really emotional conversation. And I was like, man, like this is weighty walking in, and we're never going to be as good as Carla. Like she's like the mama bear, and she's done a great job leading the business. And one of them had started at 18 as an apprentice and worked their way in and had been with her for 20 plus years.
Wow.
So it's neat. And I go back to what I mentioned earlier, like it really is all about the people, and like fostering that culture, showing that you really care. And, it's a privilege to lead the business we've got. And, there's 65 employees, and it's a mix of single moms and different backgrounds, and it's a very diverse group. And I love it. I love that challenge and the opportunity to want them to succeed and help them grow and thrive.
You bring up a really good point. I agree. Like people make or break everything. And, as you think about, financing and seller financing, that's one thing. You touched on it, but how did you think about transitioning to people? Like, when you see that moment in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to be as good as Carla was? And how are we going to lead and inspire and, be a resource that people want to be a part of, or an opportunity people want to be a part of? How did you guys transition operationally as you start buying these different locations up, and especially being based in Charlotte when they're all, playing right away?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It was coming alongside and acknowledging the fact that, hey, you're the artist, you're the experts, you're on the ground, you're leading the business. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. And being creative on like putting incentives in place. So some of the things, I do today is share 10% of profits with key management. So that incentivizes them to care about the business, to know that, hey, for every dollar, 10 cents is in my pocket in terms of profit, right? So that incentivizes them, motivates them to really care about the business more, because it is. I mean, and trust. There's got to be trust in place, because I am in Charlotte, and we're in Illinois and Wisconsin. We've got the locations dispersed. So ended up making a big investment, hiring a VP of operations who's kind of the eyes and ears on the ground, overseeing the market. We've structured some area manager roles that oversee multiple locations. But it was coming in initially and just listening, observing, being in the market, being present, asking a lot of questions, and making sure that, I understood the business and I was confident in, operating as well. So look, I don't cut hair. I'm not a cosmetologist. So get that from the get-go is just like, hey, I'm not going to be able to help you in your technique or your craft, but you're the best in the business. Like I want to come alongside you and learn.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people that we work with and we talk to are like, I don't know anything about this business, gutter cleaning.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about power washing. I don't know anything about milkshakes if it's a milkshake factory. And what I tell people is like, you don't need to be going to bed passionate about cutting hair, waking up passionate about cutting hair. You need to be good at problem solving, working with people.
Yep.
And like having some maybe like slight interest or passion for the business is important. Like if you hate haircutting or whatever, for whatever reason, it'd probably be tough for you to like every day work on that type of business. But you also don't have to be full blown, unbridled passion about, again, salons and knowing how to cut every different style there is. What advice do you have for people around that as far as, getting into a business that doesn't necessarily have something that you have the skill set on initially, or passion for, again, the type of business that it is?
Sure. I think it's, I thought through that question. That's a great question. I think meeting with current franchisees in the brand or brands that you're exploring, asking for advice, coming prepared with questions, and realizing like you can become a licensed plumber or, a tactician if you want. But I think the best way to do that is to hire great people, create opportunity for them. So I think it's overcoming that fear. Like, you don't have to know the ins and outs of the actual artistry, right, of cutting hair, but knowing how to operate a business, knowing how to take care of people, take care of your guests, and having a high bar is important.
Yeah, and I think as you were talking, I just had a little bit of a realization too of like, that is a question we get asked a lot. It's a fear people have of, this is all I've ever known for 15 years. I've worked at EY or the bank, or I'm a lawyer, or this is what I know. And how could I possibly run a group of salons or again a gutter cleaning service? And I think a thought that I just had was, at some point you were never good at that thing that you did, and again eventually with time you started to develop a skill, etc. But also, are you truly passionate about what it is that you're doing today? Doing lending at the bank or doing consulting at EY. The answer is probably there's some element you like of it. But it's those skills that are probably what make it exciting to you. It's the people that you're developing that is exciting to you. And all of that translates over into business ownership. It's not one-to-one and perfect and you're going to nail it on day one. But I think people need to give themselves a little bit more credit than they do at first of, you're a good problem solver, you're a good people manager, you're a good Excel sheet optimizer. And that's true for haircuts or helping Bank of America be 2.5% more efficient on a certain process or whatever job it is that you have. And I think that passion starts to develop and come, and I think that skill and that comfortability starts to develop and come like anything else in life. And I would just encourage people to, again, get in the game and don't create fears that might not necessarily exist, and you have that confidence and belief in yourself because you've done it. You're doing it today. Okay, so you talked about the operation of the business, the financing of the business. What does I guess a day in the life look like now? Where you've got, how many units do you have open? Are they all Supercuts? Are you cross brands?
Sure, we've got 7 Supercuts and 5 cost cutters. Okay, so it's actually under the parent Regis Corporation. So it's all under there, but they're two distinct brands. But similar in terms of the services we offer. So we've got 3 in Wisconsin and 9 in Illinois, kind of dispersed. So, 7 Supercuts kind of in the density of Chicago, kind of suburbs of Chicago, 2 cost cutters in Northern Illinois, and then 3 cost cutters in Lake Geneva and then up into Janesville, Wisconsin.
So you're 3 away. From
3
your original
away.
15.
3 away.
Do you think about that? Like, is it like, hey, I'm getting to 15
I'm almost
still?
There. I'm not as obsessed with the number. I mean, I think I'm really wanting to refine and optimize the portfolio that we've got for now, and just kind of stay open to other opportunities and focusing on getting the most out of those 12 and helping the team be successful.
So is what I was saying earlier true? You could say, hey, no, it's not true. You got that wrong. But now that you've got 12, there's a team, you've got the people. You're here in Charlotte. You've been doing it for 3-4 years now?
3 years.
3 years. is it possible to now have this lifestyle of like, hey, I'm still working on the business from afar. I'm still, setting culture,
Right.
working on training and, staffing,
Mm-hmm.
the locations. But does it feel like it's an 80-hour a week thing to you that it's as demanding as, or more demanding than anything you could ever imagine? Or has it allowed you to have some of that freedom and flexibility to take a day away and spend time with family or,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely the latter, which is awesome. I mean, it's become, there's a lot more freedom. I think this year I've been much more intentional on how I manage my days and my weeks, and still pouring a lot into business. I think opportunities happen in the margin. I think I went through a season over the last few years where everything was so compressed. Work dominated everything, like all the waking thoughts and hours, and there's a cost to that, and that like you said, that can be in a season for sure. Like when you're ramping something up or getting something going, that is what it demands, right? And then there is kind of a reckless abandon and kind of a disruption to the everyday, but you have to have that. But now, I mean, I try to leave white space for continuing to learn. So reading, listening to podcasts, exercising. I've gotten into pickleball recently, which is fun, and be the best I can for my family. So just excited to continue to invest in these locations. We've got a little bit of debt left. I'm excited to get that knocked down and just continue to see the team thrive. I mean, it's neat to see them, our VP of operations, he's a great guy doing great work. And as I've gotten to know him, learning more about his goals, his dreams, things he wants to accomplish, and being able to start to work through those things together has been super rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, again, developing the people, building out the whole system, the infrastructure. One thing I can't remember, before we get to some like last reflections and advice, one thing I think is helpful for people to know, and only share what you're comfortable sharing, but you've got 12 locations. Not all of them are going to be these like top quartile, knock it out of the park winners. Can you share a range of like, and it doesn't have to be exact numbers, but hey, some of our stores are, they're in this like $40K a year in profit range, and others are in this $300K a year range, and like you got to work this. And this is why you diversify and have multiple locations and spread it. Spread some of that infrastructure cost across multiple. Because I think other people. The reason I'm asking is I think some people think of, oh well, the FDD says the average is I'm going to make 120, and I'm better than average, so I'm going to be above 120.
Sure.
And just sometimes it's a bad location, or the team running it is not the right team. And it'd be, I think, helpful and interesting to hear of 12, what is that range that you see? Or is it pretty tight? It's like, yeah, it's right around the average.
Sure, that's a great question. I mean, six of the locations are top quartile stores, doing really well, very profitable. Like our last store, I think the average store will do about 25,000 in revenue, so 300,000 a year. Our top store last month did 43,000 in revenue, and probably made $14,000 in profit, which is awesome. So our top six are very profitable. 4 are kind of middle of the pack, maybe above middle pack, and then 1 is maybe makes $1,000 a month, and then 1 loses money that we're working on turning the staff over. So I mean, 11 out of the 12 are making money every month. The 1 has been an ongoing challenge, just finding staff in that smaller market. So we're trying to get creative on how we attack that and figure that out. But the 6 that make money, I mean, generate 2/3 of the profit every month. Wow. So making sure we're not being so distracted. I think that's the operational piece, is by the 1 or 2 that are struggling, you can spend an unreasonable amount of time on those 2 dogs and trying to chase it and fix it when we need to nurture and grow. I mean, we've grown those 6 tremendously, just in terms of putting more energy and staff and remodeling, be more aggressive to remodel those stores more quickly. Because the team's going to take more pride in the space if it's invested into, and they see us investing back into them. So that's a piece too, is just know that, a lot of people want to clip a coupon and make money right away. I mean, putting money back in the business is wise, and the team, it's important for the team to see that. And I'm up in market more than I was 2-3 years ago. So I'll be up again in 2 weeks in Chicago, and it's great to be with the team. We're going to do a high performers dinner, so it's fun to recognize people that are doing great things, and kind of create that high performance culture.
Yeah, I'm glad you said too. Hey, of the 12, there's 2 dogs, and you're like, we're trying to work on. We got advice really early on when we were franchising the laundromats, and it was, you're undoubtedly going to have 20% of your locations, whether they're corporate or franchise owned, that no matter what you do, there's going to be some sort of issue, a complaint. No matter, you could do everything the franchisee wanted, or or your corporate location and your team said that they needed, and it is still just going to not do as well, and you will burn so much energy, so much time, when you should be focusing on the top 50% that are they're experimenting with the new products and training and marketing, and they're really eager to work with you and collaborate with you and partner on things. And I think you bring up a really good point again of, it's human nature, I think, to try to fix things that are broken, but in some cases, hey, it's get it to a status quo or get it to a spot and really put your energy where it's going to have the most impact and ability to grow. Someone told me money goes where it's treated the best, and I think I think again, those top 6 stores, it's like, hey, if things are working there and there's still more to go, like that's a really good use of time versus, again, you want to fix this thing because it's just part of how we're wired.
It's brutal,
but it's like it's counterintuitive to think that way though, because you think, oh, these are all great, just let them alone. These ones are broken, I should focus here, and it's almost almost want to do the opposite. And that was a good piece of advice, but one that I wasn't again expecting.
That's good.
So coming down the home stretch, so you've seen franchising from a ton of different angles. Corporate partnerships, you were a CFO for a large group, you now run a multi-unit set of stores. What do you think most people get wrong about franchising, or what do you think they most misunderstand about the franchise model?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's just going to be a part-time job. I know some people you've had on the podcast are still staying at their job, and that's very possible. But you've got to really immerse yourself into whatever industry or business you're in. Understand the key players. Understand, hey, where do I find talent? Like, is that going to be easy or hard? And making sure that you take it seriously. And because there's an element of, if you buy an existing business, it's already operating, things are fine, like we're in a good spot, like I don't need to put too much time and energy. But as I found out, is the more I nurture those 6 locations, the more profitable they are, and the more we're scaling. And then we're starting to kind of raise other ships, raise other locations' performance up as we start to share the successes and share ideas. We do a good job. The team does a great job of sharing, talent across our sister stores. So it's like, hey, you may have a home store, home base, but we're going to move you over here to this other location to help out today, or hey, we're going to map this out to help develop this new hire that came in and give them the exposure to a higher volume store. So those types of things. So I think what people get wrong, I think, is just thinking that either, hey, it's already running, like I'm just gonna click the autopilot button and just sit back in my captain's chair. But you've really got to get after it and continue to be scrappy, even though it's a franchise. Like I think often there's no helicopter coming to rescue me. Like there's a level of grit and resilience that it demands, and you've got to be willing to kind of fight for it alongside your team, and them see that, hey, I'm all in with you. Like we're gonna figure out. Like I talk to the team a lot, just say, hey, we will find a way to win. No matter what, like we're gonna find a way to win. And if you bring that passion and energy, you don't have to love whatever product or service necessarily personally, but you've got to believe that. I think what I love about hair is it grows unless you're permanently bald, right? You can't get a haircut on the internet, and we do really well in a recessionary environment. So this type of business in the wellness beauty space, home services, things that won't be disrupted by AI are very intriguing. I think a lot of people should spend time, on the Franzi site, digging into different opportunities, and they can be kind of categorized and look at, say, hey, these are the type of industries or businesses I'm interested in, which is why I love this space. Look, if we could solve the recruiting, kind of the holy grail of solving for recruiting, I mean, I'd be much more bullish on scaling faster, right? And getting up to significant scale.
Comes down to people again.
Comes down to people, and they're not bots, right? They're not. So you've got to be really thoughtful and intentional about how you go about that process.
The last question I have for you: so someone listening that's thinking about buying a business, whether it's a franchise or not, what's the one piece of advice you would tell them, to look for that doesn't come up in the common things you'd Google, like, oh, look at the item 19 and the item 7. Like, what are the things that you'd say, like, hey, these are the things in the margin that matter that you need to look for that most people don't talk about and really dig into?
Would say make the investment in building relationships with existing franchisees, before you buy. Like, go do a fact-finding trip, make an investment, and
Go get a
fly
haircut.
out. Go get a haircut. I mean, really, go covert and get a haircut. Even if you don't need it, get a little trim and just like use the bathroom and get an environment of like, how are they taking care of the space? Does the team welcome you? How do they answer the phone? Do they welcome you back? Like, I mean, all those little things are some of the secret sauce of how you separate a decent store from a great store.
Yep.
And customers may not even realize it, but you realize it when you get bad service, right? You typically realize it. So do your due diligence, make sure that you meet with people, get behind the curtain. And the franchise community is very welcoming. Getting out and talking to people. I think any even entrepreneur, if you're intentional with, hey, I want to learn more, I've got questions I'd love to ask you, I'm interested in what you're doing, people are willing to do that. In fact, I met with a friend recently who's going through a transition out of a big corporate, looking at buying a small business, and it's kind of a sacred space, sitting down and going through that, thinking about his journey. But having gone through a lot of these types of transitions, I love being able to help people. I love being able to share what I've learned and how they can do that. So that would be what I'd encourage them to do, is look at the brand or brands you're exploring. Yes, do your kind of formal paper due diligence, but connect kind of on an EQ level with people and understand, the heart of what they do and why they do it, and would they do it again? How long do they plan on staying in? And just kind of digging into some of that stuff. Because I think most people want to have the business long term. Like, I'd love to continue to nurture this business. Maybe the kids want to be involved someday.
Yep.
Like, that's exciting to me. But if you have a mentality, I'm just going to go in and flip it, like, you got to really kind of rethink. So have kind of a long-term mindset and make sure you connect with a lot of different types of people within those brands.
Yep, I agree. If you want to get help, advice from someone, you'd be surprised how willing people are to give their time, because someone at some point did it for them.
Absolutely.
I mean, without the mentor you had, you might not have connected to this group to begin with, and
Huge.
all these other things. So if there's anyone listening that has heard your story and wants to reach out, where could they find you? Can they find you on LinkedIn? Can they reach out for questions or advice somewhere?
Sure, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have conversations.
Awesome. So you heard it from Barry. If you've got questions, reach out. Also, if you're interested in more business breakdowns, other episodes like this, check out How I Franchise This. Follow me on LinkedIn. Go to Alex from Franzi on X and Instagram. But Barry, just really appreciate you sharing your story from soup to now, or from idea to open. Appreciate you taking the time and giving back this way.
Thank you. Glad to be on.